Welcome back everyone to the weekly mailbox, my favourite video of the week by a country mile. If you're new around here, you might not know what this is, but it's your chance to ask me questions about absolutely anything. We've seen some bizarre ones in the past. However, today is a bit of an old man special. We've got questions about retirements, lots of questions about Mr. Ricky Bobby himself, Daniel Ricciardo. But as always, feel free to ask me them in the comments below over on Instagram. And if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Question 1 this week comes from Andrew Dickey. And Andrew, my man, he is taking no prisoners today, I think is fair enough to say, and I'm not messing around. It's in the title. I know sometimes I do a little tease with the title and leave it for a little bit later on. Not today. Andrew's question: when do you think Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton will retire? Thank you for your little note on the end there as well, Andrew. I really love these kind of questions, mainly because, first of all, it's guesswork. There's no real or proper answer, and they're just a little bit of fun. So I'll start with Lewis Hamilton, the man who's currently, and let's be honest, is most likely to win the World Championship this season, making it 6 World Championships, the most successful driver in the entire Formula 1 history in terms of championships earned. I don't see him retiring just yet. However, I think Lewis's personality and interests outside of Formula 1, it wouldn't surprise me if one day he suddenly just dropped the bombshell. It really wouldn't. He clearly has passions with fashion, passions with music. However, at the moment, I think he balances his life in Formula 1 and life outside of Formula 1 quite well. So my guess would be around 2024. I definitely think he'll be here for 2021 because even though he hates to say it, I personally feel he is chasing those 7 world titles. He can't not be. Everyone wants to be the number 1 in Formula 1. That's why they're there. So as much as Lewis, constantly says he doesn't look at the records, unlike Sebastian, who that's a big thing about his personality, I think Lewis will be here at least until 2024. Sebastian, on the other hand, that's a little bit harder. As I just mentioned, I think Sebastian is a little bit more I was going to say gentlemanly there, but what I mean by that is I think he cares a bit more for the actual sport of Formula 1, has a bit more of a respect for the history and the championship itself, whereas I think Lewis perhaps sees it a little bit more of a, although I'm sure he loves Formula 1, more of a job, where Sebastian I definitely think has a little bit more of the respect. Again, not trying to anger any Hamilton fanboys, not today anyway. So I don't think Sebastian will be the kind of driver, likewise with Lewis, that will want to move to a backmarker team. And I really struggle to see where Sebastian could go if he leaves Ferrari. So it wouldn't surprise me if 2 or 3 years down the line Sebastian Vettel leaves. At the beginning of this year, it wouldn't have surprised me if he retired at the end of this year. I don't think that's going to happen now, but it really wouldn't surprise me if at the end of next year we saw Sebastian Vettel retire. There's a hot take for you. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below though, because that's such a random question. I just wanted to quickly answer it at the beginning. A bit of fun, but also it's a real interesting one because they definitely are 2 drivers that multiple world champions, but really hold positions of power on the Formula 1 grid in terms of the seats they're at and, more importantly, the roles they have in Formula 1, influencing the younger guns. So thank you for your question, Andrew. I really enjoyed that one. Question 2 comes from Neil Roberts. Neil, now, I loved your question, hence it's in the video, but I already know there's going to be a few comments out there that might question your question. Sounds confusing, I know. Neil asks, what year do you think Formula E will have a Formula 1 World Drivers' Champion on the grid? And will there be a driver who wins both titles? Now, there's already been a Formula 1 World Champion in Formula E. A little while ago, I'll give you that, but one of the biggest legends in Formula 1, Jacques Villeneuve. yes, Jacques Villeneuve, he was a Formula 1 World Champion, guys. He did race in Formula E, only for a few races, but he did race in Formula E for a very short period of time. But I know what you're asking here, and also I want to say, Neil, I'm going to assume you're not new around here because I always bang on about the fact that for Formula E to develop even more than it has over the last couple of seasons, it needs headline drivers. It's got a sexy looking car. It's got plenty of manufacturers joining the sport, big manufacturers. The calendar's looking really good. We've got 3 new circuits this year, going back to London, Jakarta in Indonesia, and Seoul in South Korea. So all of those aspects, big thumbs up. The big things now is the sound. People don't like the sound, but I just think it needs a real headline driver to join the sport. And I've said it a few times, but I really do feel Fernando Alonso would be brilliant in Formula E. It's that completely new challenge that he keeps looking for. It's a single-seater series. It's a series where he can join a top team, but also it's a series where the driver makes most of the difference. We've seen Felipe Massa move there. It wouldn't surprise me if Kimi Raikkonen moved there over the next few years. And it wouldn't surprise me if Lewis Hamilton did have a season or two. There's been rumours in the news, but I think your biggest chance of a driver going but also winning the championship would be Fernando Alonso. Love that question. Always love Formula E questions. I try to do one in every video if I can. Question number 3 comes from Emoji Lover. Questionable name, my friend, but I liked your question, so I'll let it go. I'll let it slide for this week. At Formula 1/E reviews, yep, even I can't say my own name. How would you rate Drive to Survive Netflix series? I watched it in a day because it was so enticing. Fair play to watching it in a day. There is a season 2 of Drive to Survive, and actually, funnily enough, I just finished rewatching it. So I watched it when it first came out. I did binge watch it. Not in a day, mind. I wasn't that extreme, but I did really enjoy it. Having rewatched it, I still really enjoy it, and I understand that it's not really aimed at people like myself, like most of you watching this video right now. I know the whole point of Drive to Survive is really to sort of jump into this new American market, and I know most of my viewers are American anyway, so howdy to you folk. Sorry, I'll leave that in. But I understand it's more of the new fans to the sport. It's to can't even take myself seriously. It's to bring new fans into the sport, to show them the highlights of Formula 1, the best bits and perhaps the worst bits. So I really enjoyed it. Yes, it was a little bit over-dramatised at points. Yes, there were things that really wound me up. The one that really sticks out to me is team radio being used in just random scenarios. So a radio from Mexico Verstappen will be used in, I don't know, a race in Melbourne from Verstappen. So things like that wound me up, but it's a brilliant series, and I'm really looking forward to season 2. Sorry if that got a bit silly there, but hey, that's just me sometimes. Anyway, Serenity707 asks the first of 2 Daniel Ricciardo questions. Can Ricciardo still win a championship in Formula 1? He's getting older. Yep, I think he's about 30 now, or 29, approaching 30, and time is running out. Dun dun dun! Right. Do I think Ricciardo is championship material? 100%. I've said this in a few videos. I really think Ricciardo is championship quality. I really do believe that. I still believe, after a shaky year with Renault, I still think he's the best overtaker in Formula 1. That smile is intoxicating, but I think it's been a difficult year, and we often see this with Formula 1 drivers. I think we've definitely seen that with Fernando Alonso this year, with Esteban Ocon this year, even with Daniel Ricciardo. Anyone else I can think of? Not so much, but some drivers definitely are hurt by recency bias. If they're not, I mean, Hulkenberg is a brilliant example. Hulkenberg last year, people couldn't stop singing his praises. This year, they say it's his time to go. So, recency bias, I do believe, is in Formula 1. I think for Ricciardo, like I say, I think he's definitely got the talent, the honey badge, to win a championship. He just needs to find the car now. And that wasn't the case at Red Bull. And yeah, I will happily agree that by the end of his time at Red Bull, Verstappen was the better of the two. However, we didn't really get a proper judgment of that due to Ricciardo's awful reliability. We saw races in Abu Dhabi where Red Bull ended up favouring Verstappen on strategy on a certain occasion. So it's all about finding the car. I think he will move away from Renault for one last attempt at a Mercedes or Ferrari. But our final question, which I wanted to kind of link in because I've said a few times, I really want to do a nice big fat juicy video on Daniel Ricciardo at the end of the season. So I want to do my audience participation question, which again, if you're new around here, the last question in Weekly Mailbox, I just throw out to you guys. I want to know your thoughts in the comments below, but I also do my answer. And it comes from Easy Peeler. Do you think Daniel Ricciardo's move to Renault has been a failure? I've said many times that Ricciardo, for me, I mean, it's completely subjective on why you think Ricciardo moved to Renault. Because you might very well think that Ricciardo, a works team, Red Bull were going to Honda, so he thought Renault were going to be better. Fair play. You might think that Ricciardo was after the cash and moved to Renault for the cash, and they were offering more. You might be one of the parties that think he was running away from Max Verstappen. I sit in another camp. I think he moved to Renault to make it easier to move to a Mercedes or Ferrari in 2021, or even perhaps back to Red Bull. Moving from a team like Red Bull, I know Sebastian Vettel did it, but moving like a team from Red Bull to a Mercedes or a Ferrari is a hell of a lot more difficult than moving from a midfield team to a top team. And I think this really, for 2021, has opened up Ricciardo's options. And also, if Renault does actually turn out to be quite good, with a legal car, I should throw in the mix, I think, yeah, he's made the right decision. But I'd love to know your thoughts, because I know many people have so many different reasons why it's worked, why it hasn't. I think he's been strong this year, Daniel Ricciardo. Not his best year, for sure, but definitely not one of his worst. And I think he has proved that in a really tight midfield fight, he is one of the better drivers. But of course, that's the end of the show. Episode 20 of the Weekly Mailbox. A little bit of a landmark, but not enough to do something special just yet. I did want to mention as well, I mean, this is pretty much the end of the video, so thanks for watching. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. But I just wanted to quickly say, I mentioned it over the weekend, over the Mexican Grand Prix weekend. I'm in the process of setting up a podcast, because far too many of you are asking me about it, and I've kind of been working on something for a little while now, almost as a bit of a spin-off series to the Weekly Mailbox. Sounds strange, I know, but just bear with me. I'm not announcing anything concrete just yet, but I know a lot of you ask me questions on the Weekly Mailbox, and they're ginormous questions, brilliant questions, but I always aim for the Mailbox videos to be between, I don't know, 10, maximum of 20 minutes. But some of these questions, it would take me a year to answer them. So what I'm hoping to do is just do a podcast where I just answer one question in complete detail, loads of juicy statistics, maybe some, I was going to say graphs, but you can't listen to a graph, Dan. But you know what I mean, just unwrapping some of these questions a little bit more. So I'm not ignoring all of your questions. I just want to let that be known. And a lot of the ones on Instagram that I've received over the last few weeks are beautiful, beautiful questions. I just don't have time. So I just wanted to let you know I'm aware of some of these questions. So keep an eye when the podcast does launch. I'm hoping to do it when the season ends of Formula 1, so it doesn't get a bit of a boring winter for you all. But I just wanted to let you know there, just a bit of an extra minute bonus content for you. You're welcome. Anyway, I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. Thank you very much for watching. To my nonsense, as always, I hope you did enjoy. If you are new and you did enjoy, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one.